Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl. Guess what, everyone? It's draft time again, and I am a reigning champion from last week's Disney Princess Draft. Team, they got the W, but before we dive into this week's draft, make sure to drop a comment down below for what your first overall pick would be. You see the video title, you know what we're drafting. Drop a like, drop a dislike if you disagree with our predictions. Regardless, it helps the channel out, YouTube algorithm, all that type of stuff. And if you are interested in this draft, we have a full spoiler review about this newest Spider-Man movie coming out later this week. But you know what time it is, Matt? Draft time. Kick us off.
Draft time. Well, last week I lost the draft, which means first pick is for you. And this week we are going to be drafting best Spider-Man movies. There's 10 of them now with the release of Across the Spider-Verse. So we're going to be drafting all of those movies all the way down and trying to make the best team of these Spider-Man movies. Now, there are some real stinkers in here. There really are. But there's also some great movies. Spider-Man has some goods, some bads. So we're going to do our best to make the best teams that we possibly can.
First pick. I don't really need to describe it. You see it right here. It's Morbius. Morbin time. Morb gang. We're winning. Matt Smith, take us away. But, on a real note, I'm taking Across the Spider-Verse. This movie's fresh. It's out. It's so good. And we have a full review about it coming out. So I'm not going to ramble about why this movie's great. Check that video out when it comes out. Matt, you have the next two picks.
I think it's pretty easy. I mean, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is obviously the other top choice here. Some people would say it's better than Across the Spider-Verse. I would say it's a close second place, but it is just as good by any metric. It's an incredible film. So yeah, that's the easy second choice right here. Miles Morales, his story begins here. It really introduced some new animation styles. It gave a whole new kind of aspect to the Spider-Man mythos. Just an incredible film. Great, great movie. Then for my second pick, I'm going to be picking Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 with a great villain in Doc Ock. I think Tobey Maguire does his best work as Spider-Man here, and this is widely accepted to be one of the best superhero movies of all time. Personally, I wouldn't put it all the way up there, but I think it's great anyways. It is one of my favorite Spider-Man movies, and I feel really good about these first two picks. I think that these have an argument for being the top two Spider-Man movies if you hadn't seen Across the Spider-Verse yet.
That is true. There's just one other movie I would throw into that conversation, and I get the complaints about this movie, but at the same time, sometimes you just want to turn your brain off and have a great time and enjoy it with a giant crowd. So give me Spider-Man No Way Home. You get all three Spider-Men, you get all the Spider-Man villains that you know and love, and you get a very fun and very engaging story. Like I said, there's some problems with this movie, but I think it's probably the most fun movie that's not... I think it's the most fun movie that's in the live action format featuring Spider-Man. So that's where I think this draft now gets interesting. The top four, clearly all away. It's where do you go from here? My heart tells me to go with another movie, but my brain tells me to take the OG, to take the original Spider-Man.
That's a great, great pick. I mean, it's the movie that started it all.
It is, and I'll be completely blunt here. Maybe this is losing me points. I don't really like Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and I really didn't want to pick one of these movies, but I don't want to draft all three Tom Holland movies, so I figured let's take a break on one of them, and at least I get this one, and I don't get Spider-Man 3. However, you have both picks now, so maybe you just take both Tom Holland movies to spite me.
No, I'm not going to, because I think that 2 out of 3 of the Tom Holland movies are not that great. I'm not a big fan of No Way Home, I'm going to be honest. I think that movie relies way too much on cameos, and it doesn't fully deliver, especially after Into the Spider-Verse. Like, how are you going to do a Spider-Man multiverse movie and follow Into the Spider-Verse up? Mm-hmm. The answer is you follow it up with Across the Spider-Verse, not with No Way Home. But my next pick that I'm going to go with is Spider-Man Homecoming. I really like this one. This one's grown on me with time. I think the aspect of Spider-Man as like a John Hughes coming-of-age movie is so good. It's so sensitive, so sweet, and really funny, and really fun. It's got a great screenplay. Tom Holland does his best work as Spider-Man in this movie. The villain here is fantastic. Some of the reveals with the Vulture are really, really, really well done. So that is my next pick there. And to round it out, I'm going to get a little bit of everyone here. I am going to pick The Amazing Spider-Man next. The Amazing Spider-Man, I think Andrew Garfield is maybe the best Spider-Man in my mind. I think that his energy that he brings to the role is so strong. He really sells that sort of like witty, cocky aspect of Spidey. And I think he's a great Peter Parker too, because despite that kind of like cockiness, that kind of pretty boy attitude, he's also just a big dork. I think he really does a great job playing Spider-Man here. And any of the faults of how his Spider-Man movies went, or his time as Spider-Man went, I think it's the fault of the movies, not the fault of Andrew Garfield. He's a great Spider-Man. And it's just, I think, like a pretty fun time. Now, I haven't seen it since it played in theaters, but when I watched it in theaters all the way back in 2012, I really loved this film. I had a great time. It took me all the way until yesterday to watch the second Amazing Spider-Man movie, but the first one, I think, was pretty dang good.
Well, I am taking a movie that I think gets way too much hate online, and I'm not really sure why, so give me Far From Home. I think this has a great villain in Jake Gyllenhaal. I think it has a very fun dynamic between Zendaya and Tom Holland, and as well as I think it has a pretty good ensemble. Like, all the kids from school get their moments to shine. We have maybe some minor villains throughout that aren't really there, but kind of there, but are fun. I don't think this is the greatest Tom Holland movie, but it's definitely not the worst Spider-Man movie, and I think this is one that's very fun at the moment. It just doesn't stick with you that much after when you watch it. This is the point of the draft where if we were drafting Spider-Verse type movies, I would take Venom, but we're not drafting those movies. So give me The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yes, the first one is better, but this one has Jamie Foxx, and he's doing something, and I have to commend him on whatever he's doing.
I just watched this for the first time yesterday, and I will say I think Jamie Foxx is a really great villain in this. I like the idea more than the execution, I think, because the idea of having like a villain be a super fan of Spider-Man, great idea. For the final pick of the draft, I'm left with Spider-Man 3, which is a piece of shit. It is a bad movie. I'm not going to defend this one. It's bad. This is a bad movie. Anyone who's posting those Raimi memes, you can laugh at the movie. Don't try and pretend this is good. It's not good. It's not a good movie. My
question to you is though, would you still draft this if Venom 2 was on the board?
I haven't seen Venom 2.
Would you still draft this if Venom 1 was on the board?
Yes. I would take this over Venom 1. Venom 1, I think, is absolutely awful. This one, I think, is awful, but not absolutely awful. I think that there's some good parts of this. I think the Sandman is a pretty interesting villain. Venom is awful in this movie. So bad. And the way that he's like shoved in the last 20 minutes, awful. But hey, we got the...
Hey. So,
that
everyone
dance,
out there...
So.
We are going to recap our teams right here from the Spider-Man draft. I had Across the Spider-Verse, No Way Home, the OG Spider-Man, Far From Home, and The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
And I had Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, The Amazing Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 3.
So everyone, make sure to go out there and vote. We will have a poll on our YouTube community tab, and it is so important not just to have your voice heard, but also for who will have the first pick in next week's draft, which will be a very fun one. We are drafting A24 movies. That's going to be a pretty sporadic draft because they have a lot. They have dramas, they have comedies, they have horrors, they have everything. But until then, make sure to comment down below what movie you would take first overall, and if you even included Venom and Morbius, where would they go in your draft? Are they not even in your top 10, or does one of them crack your top 10? But until next time, my name is Dyl.
And my name is Matt, and this is Fantasy Filmball.